They had everything: love, luxury, laughter. Lucas once believed nothing could break their bond. But life has a strange way of testing love when money disappears. What happens when a marriage built on dreams faces the storm of reality? Sometimes it's not the poor man who changes. It's the woman who forgets what love once meant. Lucas sat in his leather chair, the soft hum of the air conditioner filling the silence of his glass-walled office. The evening sun bathed the skyline in shades of gold and crimson, and for a moment, he paused just to breathe in the beauty of it all. He was 32, successful, confident, the kind of man who made things happen. On his desk lay blueprints of his latest project, a luxury real estate deal that was about to change everything for his company. His phone buzzed softly. It was a message from Elena, greater than, "Don't forget dinner. I made your favorite tonight." A smile crept onto his face. "She still makes time for me, even when I forget myself in work," he replied quickly, "Leaving soon." "Can't wait." Lucas wasn't the kind of man who stayed late at work, not when Elena was waiting for him. No matter how packed his schedule was, he always made sure to reach home by dinner. That was their unspoken rule. Business could wait, but love couldn't. As he walked out of the office, a few of his colleagues greeted him. "Good night, boss," with admiration in their tone. Everyone knew Lucas for his discipline, his soft-spoken nature, and his respect for people. But behind his calm eyes lived a man who had fought hard for everything he had, and feared losing it all. When he opened the door to their apartment, warmth greeted him. The smell of creamy pasta and basil filled the air. Their home wasn't just a space. It was Elena's touch everywhere. Soft lights, light music, photos from their vacations, beaches, road trips, birthdays, their smiles frozen in frames that whispered we were happy. Elena stood in the kitchen, wearing an oversized white shirt, her hair tied up carelessly in a bun. She was humming a tune softly, moving her hands gracefully as she cooked. Lucas slipped his arms around her from behind, his chin brushing her shoulder. "You smell like heaven," he murmured. She laughed softly. "And you're late again. Worth it if I come home to this," he said, kissing her cheek. She turned to face him, eyes sparkling. "You always know how to say the right thing." He chuckled, taking plates to the table. "I just say what I mean." Dinner was light, full of laughter. They talked about her new painting, about how their cat almost broke a vase, and about Lucas's new office furniture. That looked like it belonged in a museum. They made fun of each other, teased, smiled, the kind of normalcy that felt magical because it was shared. To anyone watching, they looked perfect. A couple built on trust and understanding, but perfection always hides something. What Elena didn't see was the flicker of worry in Lucas's eyes when his phone vibrated. A message from his business partner that read, "Greater than, we need to talk tomorrow." "It's urgent." He ignored it for now. He didn't want her to worry. He smiled and lifted his glass. "To us," he said. "To everything we've built together." Elena clinked her glass with his. "And to everything we'll never lose. If only love could stop what was coming." That weekend, they decided to escape the noise of the city. Lucas wanted to surprise her, so he took her on a spontaneous road trip. He drove, one hand on the wheel, the other holding hers. The radio played old love songs, and Elena sang along, off-tune but full of life. "You drive too fast," she teased. "I drive like a man who's racing to spend more time with you," he replied. She laughed, eyes gleaming. Smooth talker. They stopped by a lake, peaceful, untouched, the water glittering like glass under the soft sun. They sat by the edge, shoes off, feet in the cold water. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know, Lucas, I don't care about money or fancy things. I just want this. You, me, quiet days like this." He looked at her, touched her face gently. "You really mean that?" She nodded. "I'd live anywhere, as long as it's with you." Lucas smiled faintly, but somewhere deep inside, he felt an ache. People say those who love deeply also fear deeply. He feared losing this peace, this simplicity, this us. He had built his empire from scratch. No rich parents, no safety net, just hard work and risk. He knew the world wasn't always kind, but he believed his love was strong enough to survive anything. He didn't know how soon that belief would be tested. A few months later, the tone of his life began to change. The company's biggest investor suddenly pulled out of a major project. Another deal got delayed. The markets dipped. His manager came to him one morning and said softly, "Lucas, we might have to cut some staff. We're burning cash." Lucas rubbed his face. "Give me time. I'll fix it." He didn't tell Elena at first. He didn't want her to panic. He started coming home later, saying he had urgent work. He looked tired, eyes shadowed, mind running in circles. Elena began noticing. One night she found him staring at his laptop, jaw tight. "Everything okay?" She asked gently. "Yeah, just work," he replied quickly. "You've been saying that for days, Lucas." He forced a smile. "It's fine, Lena. Go to bed. I'll join you soon." She stood there for a moment, watching him. "Don't hide things from me. We promised to share everything." He looked up, guilt flickering in his eyes. "I'm not hiding. I'm protecting you." That line, meant as love, would one day become a wound. Weeks passed. The phone calls increased. Lucas grew quieter. One night, she woke up and found him sitting in the dark, hands in his hair, whispering to himself. "Lucas?" she said softly. He looked up quickly, his eyes glassy. "You should sleep." She walked closer. "What's going on?" He hesitated, then sighed. "It's complicated. One of our biggest investors backed out. It's a mess, but I'll fix it. I always do." She nodded, trying to be strong. "You always find a way. I believe in you." But when she went to bed, her eyes stayed open for hours. Fear crept in. What if he couldn't fix it this time? Months passed, and the fall began, quiet, slow, painful. Lucas sold his car first. He told Elena it was temporary. Then the second car went. Then one of their properties. Each step felt like watching their dreams slip through his fingers. Elena tried to smile through it. "It's just a phase," she said, touching his cheek. "You'll bounce back." But the cracks were showing. Dinner conversations turned silent. Her eyes, once full of warmth, now carried something else, worry, distance. She started meeting her old friends again. Most of them lived the same luxury life they once did. She came home quiet after those gatherings, her expression unreadable. One night, Lucas walked in and found her sitting near the window, staring at the streetlights. "What's wrong?" he asked softly. She didn't look at him. "I was just thinking about how fast things can change." He sat beside her. "I know, but we'll get through it, together." "Together?" she said bitterly. "Lucas, do you even realize what we've lost?" He turned to her. "It's not about what we've lost. It's about what we still have." "But it is about that." She snapped suddenly, her voice trembling. "We used to have everything. Comfort, security, pride. And now? We're barely holding on." Lucas fell silent. He didn't know what to say. She stood up and walked to the other side of the room. "You said love was enough. But love doesn't pay bills, Lucas." Her words hit him like a knife. He looked down. "I'm doing everything I can." "I know," she whispered. "But it's not enough." That night, they slept facing opposite sides, silence between them heavier than any argument. Days blurred together. More calls. More stress. More silence. One morning, Lucas woke up early for a meeting, another desperate attempt to save what was left. He walked into the living room and froze. Elena stood there with a suitcase. "Elena, what are you doing?" Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. "I can't do this anymore." His chest tightened. "You're leaving?" She nodded slowly. "I've tried. I really have. But I can't keep living like this, waiting, hoping, struggling." He stepped closer. "Elena, please." This is just a rough time. We'll rebuild everything. I'll make it right." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You said that months ago." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "I love you, Lucas," she whispered. "But I can't live in this emptiness. I need stability, security, and you can't give me that anymore." Lucas felt his heart split open. "So that's it? After everything? After all we built?" She looked down. "I'm sorry." And then she walked out. No dramatic goodbye. No final hug. Just silence. He stood there for a long time, staring at the door she had just closed. The woman who once promised forever had left without even looking back. That night, Lucas sat in the same dark room where he had once dreamed of success. His hands trembled as he looked around. The apartment suddenly felt too big, too quiet. The city lights outside blurred through his tears. He whispered to himself, "Maybe love dies when money does." Weeks passed. Lucas tried to focus on work again. Tried to breathe. Tried to survive. He sold the last of his assets. Moved into a smaller apartment. Started freelancing, rebuilding from scratch. He didn't talk about her. Didn't ask mutual friends. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. One afternoon, his friend Daniel sent him a photo, greater than. "You might want to see this." It was Elena, smiling, dressed in designer clothes, standing beside another man, older, confident, rich. They were at a luxury event. Lucas stared at the picture for a long time. His hand shook. His lips pressed into a thin line. So this is where love goes when money ends. That night, he walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker. He whispered, "You chose wealth over love, Elena, but I'll come back stronger. And when I do, you'll see what real power looks like." His reflection stared back at him, tired, broken, but burning with something new. Not anger, not sadness. The world had taken everything from him, even love. But it had also given him something far greater. The reason to rise again. And when he did, he wouldn't just rebuild. He would own everything that had once looked down on him. The storm wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The rain fell heavy that night, hitting the city like it was trying to wash away sins. Lucas sat by the window of his small apartment, watching droplets race each other down the glass. It had been a year since Elena walked out. A year since he lost everything. His company, his home, his love. He had nothing left but his name. And the memory of her leaving. In the corner of his apartment stood a single photo frame, their picture from the lake day. She was laughing, eyes full of light. He looked at it for a long moment, then turned it face down. That man died a year ago, he thought. He looked in the mirror, a thinner face, tired eyes, a small scar under his chin from a night he had collapsed from exhaustion. But his gaze, it was sharper now. The world had broken him, but it had also rebuilt him into something stronger. Lucas had started small again, freelancing at first, designing small projects for local clients. He worked from a borrowed laptop, slept little, and saved every cent. They met in a small coffee shop. Lucas wore the same old suit he'd owned for years, but his confidence had returned. He spoke clearly, passionately. The investor nodded. "You still have that fire. Let's rebuild something." That something became a small real estate startup. Nothing fancy, just smart, low-cost housing projects. But Lucas poured everything he had into it, heart, sweat, pain. He didn't chase revenge. Not yet. He chased growth. Months passed, and the small company grew. Investors returned. People whispered his name again. And one evening, as Lucas signed his first $1 million deal since the fall, he smiled slightly and whispered, "Greater than. We're just getting started." One night, fate decided to test him. Lucas attended a business event, a large charity gala hosted by the city's elite. He wasn't invited. He came as a silent sponsor, keeping a low profile. The hall glittered with chandeliers and laughter. Glasses clinked. Perfume lingered in the air. Then he saw her, Elena, standing across the room, dressed in gold, laughing softly beside the same man from the photo, Richard Hawley, one of the wealthiest businessmen in town. Lucas's chest tightened, but he didn't move. He just watched. Her smile was still beautiful, but something about her eyes looked colder. For a moment, their eyes met. Elena froze. Her laughter stopped. The glass in her hand trembled slightly. Lucas nodded politely, the kind of nod strangers give each other, and walked away. That tiny gesture hit her harder than she expected. She had imagined this moment so many times, that he'd be bitter, broken, maybe even beg for forgiveness. But no, he looked calm, successful, powerful. She turned to Richard quickly. "Who is that man?" Richard glanced. Lucas Knight, the CEO of LK Holdings. Smart guy. Made a fortune in construction and tech. Why? Her throat went dry. "Just curious." Richard smiled. "He's one of the fastest growing businessmen in the city. Everyone's talking about his comeback." Elena's hands went cold. Comeback? The same man she had left behind in darkness had returned brighter than ever. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Richard noticed her silence. "You okay?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Just tired." But her mind wasn't tired. It was burning. She remembered the small apartment, the arguments, the suitcase, the way Lucas had begged her to stay. And now that same man stood among the elite again, stronger, colder, unreachable. She whispered into the dark, "What have you become, Lucas?" Meanwhile, Lucas sat in his office, the city glowing outside. His assistant entered. "Sir, the Hawley Corporation reached out. They want to collaborate on a new commercial project." Lucas looked up slowly, his eyes hardening. "Greater than Richard Hawley?" "Yes, sir." A slow smile curved on his lips. "Greater than." "Tell them I'm interested." The game had begun. Over the next few months, Lucas and Richard met several times. Meetings full of polite smiles and calculated words. Lucas played his cards carefully. He proposed a merger project that would appear profitable for both sides. Richard, eager for expansion, agreed. Lucas had one goal now: take everything Richard owned, slowly, legally, and perfectly. He worked tirelessly. He began buying silent shares in Richard's smaller companies through third parties. Every move was calculated. Every smile rehearsed. His revenge wasn't loud. It was smart. Within months, LK Holdings and Hawley Corp signed a huge joint deal worth millions. The project required shared management, and Lucas insisted on handling all finances. Richard trusted him. Big mistake. While Hawley Corp's profits appeared steady, Lucas quietly shifted control through contracts and partnerships. One night, Daniel, his old friend, asked him, "You're really doing this? Taking them down piece by piece?" Lucas looked up from his desk. "They took my heart when I was weak. Now I'll take their empire while I'm strong." Daniel sighed. "And Elena?" Lucas's expression didn't change. She made her choice, but deep down, something twisted in him whenever her name came up. Revenge felt good, but it also hurt. Months later, cracks began showing in Richard's empire. He came home one evening, furious. "Some of our subsidiaries are bleeding money. Investors are pulling out. I don't understand what's happening." Elena tried to calm him. "Maybe it's temporary." But deep down, she had a feeling. A name whispered in her mind, Lucas Ditkama. She started doing her own research, quietly looking into documents and contracts. And there it was, hidden in fine print. LK Holdings control expanding quietly into Hale's main assets. She felt dizzy. "He's taking everything," she whispered. The next day, she went to meet him, unannounced. Lucas was sitting in his office when his secretary said, "Sir, Elena Hawley is here to see you." He leaned back, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Send her in." She walked in, nervous but determined. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice shaking. He looked up, calm as ever. "Doing what?" "Destroying Richard." "Destroying me." He stood slowly, walking toward her. You think this is about you? Her eyes filled with tears. You're taking revenge. He stopped inches away. No, Elena, I'm taking back what was mine. Power, respect, everything your new world thought I didn't deserve. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You've changed. He smiled coldly. So did you. Within a few more months, Halle Corporation was nearly gone. Lucas's silent acquisition became public. Richard's investors pulled out. Media headlines screamed, "Business genius Lucas Knight takes over Halle Empire." Richard suffered a heart attack during a heated board meeting. Elena sat by his hospital bed, guilt eating her alive. He recovered slightly, but his confidence was gone. One night, she looked at the news on TV. Lucas shaking hands with major investors, smiling proudly. He had become everything he once dreamed of and more. And she had lost everything. Weeks later, Elena went to see him one last time. He was standing in his new office, the same skyline, but this time he owned the tallest building. When she entered, he didn't look surprised. "Why are you here, Elena?" he asked softly. She took a deep breath. "To say I was wrong. About everything. You didn't need me to rise. I was blind." He looked at her quietly. She continued, tears streaming. "You were the love of my life. But I let money blind me. And I lost both." Lucas walked closer, his eyes unreadable. "You know what hurts more than losing money?" he said quietly. "Losing someone who promised to stay." She nodded, sobbing. "I know. I live with that every day." He turned away, looking out the window. "You wanted a rich man, Elena. Now you have one, standing right in front of you. But not for you anymore." Her lips trembled. "Lucas." He looked back, eyes cold but wet. "Goodbye, Elena." She left, and as the elevator doors closed, he finally exhaled, a sound of release and pain mixed together. Lucas looked out over the city, the same skyline that once mocked. His fall now glittered under his rule. He had lost love, trust, and peace. But he had gained something far more powerful. It didn't heal him. It didn't make him gentle again. It made him strong. And in that strength, he found his peace. He whispered to himself as the lights of his empire flickered beneath him. Greater than. "You traded my love for luxury, Elena. But now, luxury bows to me." He smiled, cold, victorious, and free. Because sometimes the sweetest closure isn't forgiveness. It's watching karma do your work. Never betray the one who built your world. They might return to own it. And destroy yours.